Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Tutorials. Today we're going to be going over an interesting topic, which is item breakpoints. That's right, you heard me, Diablo 2 players. There are breakpoints in Diablo 2, or sorry, Diablo 4, just like in Diablo 2. Now, what are these breakpoints and what the hell do they do? Well, this particular graphic was put together by Jumpy Jump, and it goes over the specific breakpoints, which are Tier 1 is 1 to 149, Tier 2 is 150 to 339, Tier 3 is 340 to 459, Tier 4 is 460 to 624, and Tier 5 is 620 to 724, and Tier 6 is 725 plus. There's also rumors that there is, of course, a 7th breakpoint, although we don't know exactly what that is yet, and I was going to test to see if I could figure it out today. But essentially, what breakpoints are is that the item will actually be re-rolled when passing these breakpoints. So you may have noticed that when you take an item to the blacksmith and you upgrade an item, doesn't matter what the level of the item is, if you take any item and you upgrade it, you will notice that the power level of the item increases with the upgrade. So, for instance, if I go from a +3 ranks of Sever, you notice that it stays at +3 for one upgrade, right? But if I upgrade this multiple times, the Sever can potentially get upgraded to +4 ranks, right? So this is a gradual upgrade process that works within the items. The items will gain some power, like for instance we go from 49 willpower to 53 willpower, and so forth and so on. But the range doesn't change. And this is the most important thing with this. So if you're upgrading an item like this, and you're getting it up to, tier 5, tier 6, whatever it is that you're upgrading it to, the power level of the item is going to increase for the upgrades, but the maximum will not increase. Like it doesn't tend to increase the maximum. Like for instance, the maximum here is your 49 willpower, which is what your kind of like your roll is. Like I guess is the better way to put it. It's what your roll is. So while it is increasing, like the stats in general, it's not increasing your roll, it's increasing your roll within those stats. So for instance, if the range is 36 to 55 and you have a roll of 49, then when you upgrade it, you get a subsequent increase because the range has now increased from 39 to 59 and you have 53 willpower now for enhancing the item. What the breakpoints are is something else entirely. So I have some items here to show off for these breakpoints and their rings. So we're going to have to go over to the jewelry vendor. But basically what it happens is that the effects are actually re-rolled at the point of upgrading past a breakpoint. So right here I have a piece of jewelry that is 820, which is actually just perfect for one of the breakpoints. Perfect for the 624 breakpoint right here. Now, how breakpoints work is that as long as you're within this range, you're on breakpoint 4. Even if you're sitting at 624 exactly, you're still on breakpoint 4. But as soon as you hit 625, you are now on breakpoint 5. Now, this particular item is a 620 item power item, which means that as soon as I upgrade it, it is going to go to a 625 item power item, and it is going to re-roll the stats. So as you can see here, I'm currently at 2.2% crit chance, with 1.4 to 3% crit. And it's going to go to a 1.8 to 4.4%. So let's go ahead and upgrade this and see what we end up getting. So we ended up getting a 4.8 on the crit, which is pretty nice. That was a re-roll. So it re-rolled to 4.4 from the original value that was not the capped value. So when you pass these breakpoint numbers, it actually re-rolls all the numbers on the item and basically makes them either A, better, B, worse, or C, the same. This means that when you're traveling up on items, like specifically if you have an item that's very close to a breakpoint, you can re-roll all the effects on the item and potentially get something better, but you could also potentially get something worse. This also, of course, upgrades the overall stats of the item as well. So there is a pretty large upgrade going from one breakpoint to another. So when you go from breakpoint 5 to 6, like 724 to a 725 item, there's a pretty huge power gap difference between these items. Like, for instance, I have rings that are 7.5% crit chance when they're fully upgraded. These are 728 pluses, which means that they're on the last breakpoint. And 7.5% crit is really nice, right? But they're also upgraded, so that's another reason why they have such a high crit value. I have a ring right here, which is a 806 item power, and could be upgraded potentially to, what is that, 831? 831, right? 25 plus 6. That's going to be 31, 831 item power. So let's see how this one upgrades. And maybe, and I don't know if there is a breakpoint past 820. I currently have a couple items that are upgraded kind of like that, like the 819 plus 25, which is pretty high. That's not perfect. 820 is perfect, and then 25 is the full upgrade. So let's upgrade this to full, and let's see how it compares. Now, I re-rolled this on purpose to have the crit strike chance right here. As you can see, my ring also has crit strike chance. So when I upgrade this to its maximum, it should go to 7.5%. If there's a new breakpoint, we might be looking at more than 7.5%. So as you can see, that did not hit a new breakpoint because we're still sitting at 2.7 to 7.5%. It did not re-roll the 7.5% to a different number, which means that there's no breakpoint at the 806 plus 25. If we can find something that's really close to the breakpoint number, like an 820, is definitely what we would want to check, and then upgrade that. We could see how that re-rolls. But I have two items right here. My sword, which is 819 plus 25, and my two-handed sword, which is 819 plus 25. And both of these have some pretty high rolls on them, like 183 intelligence, up to 58.5% core skill damage, 63% critical strike. So I'm not exactly sure. It's something I'm going to have to explore eventually. And obviously, if a new breakpoint is discovered, especially one so as important as the end game breakpoint, because 820 item power is the current end game item power, with the very rare exception of purchasing an item. Apparently, you can actually purchase items from shops that will sometimes exceed 820. So maybe the experiment might involve finding an item within the shop that has a higher item level than 820. But as of right now, these are the breakpoints. So if you are a character who's running equipment that's between 625 and 724, getting equipment that is higher than 725 is definitely going to be a noticeable increase in your damage level, and your survivability. On top of that, if you have items that are close to this, upgrading them into the 725 range will give them a considerable boost in power. And this goes for every single item range. So upgrading items has a huge effect on the power level of the items if they breach across these item breakpoint barriers. It's actually pretty interesting, and it's just very nostalgic to me because breakpoints are something that I've always been familiar with from Diablo 2. Now, obviously there is other things that you get for upgrading items. You get just basic stats as well, like getting the effects. The unfortunate side effect of these breakpoints, though, is that sometimes your item can get worse, or, sometimes it can get better. So it really just depends. Upgrade the item, see what happens, and, if it gets the effects that you're looking for, then so be it. As you can see, I'm running two 7.5% crit rings. I've got a 10.5% crit pair of gloves, and so forth and so on. So I'm customizing my effects as close to what I need. Anyway, as always, I don't want to keep this video too long. Thank you for watching, and keep watching.